Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this really cute little Loomigurumi Chewbacca. So this is the first one I had done. I had actually made it as a Christmas gift, and this one doesn't have any stuffing in it, so I don't know if you can tell if it looks any thinner, but he's a little bit more floppy. And then this one here I'm going to show you how to make in the tutorial. So his bag here I'm not showing in this tutorial, but I will be doing that soon in a separate video. So once it's done, I'll add the link. So I did use a different color for the under part of the arms here for the one I'm doing in this tutorial, and that was just to get a clearer view of what I was doing. I thought it would be easier if I had two different colors. So it's really up to you whether you want to make him two different colors or all the same. But I'm really happy with the way that he turned out. I think he's super cute. And it is a little bit more challenging when you add the extra loops for the fur. It does sort of kick it up a notch as far as the difficulty level. But if you do struggle with that, I think he would turn out just as cute if you just made the main underneath part and didn't add the loops. To make your Chewbacca, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I have the Rainbow Loom metal hook, and I'm going to be using a twist tie just to help me get my magic ring started. So that is optional, but I find it very helpful. And I'm going to be using polyfill for my stuffing. So really stuffing is optional, but I guess I would recommend it at least for the main body. I'm going to be using several clips, and then as far as my facial features, I have 2 beads for the eyes, and those are about 8 millimeters. And then for the nose, I have this oval shaped button, and the length of that is approximately 12 millimeters. And then as far as your band counts go, I tried to get an accurate count. I believe that I used just over 700 bands of this brown color. Technically, for the one I'm showing on the film, I did use caramel color for the arms just to show a difference. And if you did want to make your Chewbacca without the extra loops, that would actually really cut down on your band counts. It would actually cut your band counts down by about half. I'm going to start by making the arms. So I decided that it would be easier for you to see if I use 2 different colors. So I'm not going to do this throughout, but for the arms I will. So I have this caramel color. I have 6 bands of that. That's going to be the main underneath part. And then I have 5 brown that is going to be for the fur. And I will be using a twist tie to help me get the magic ring started. So this is optional, but I do find it very helpful. So you just want to place it right next to your hook, taking your first band, and I'm going to triple this. So it goes on, twist, back on, twist, and then back on. And you have to make it over both parts there. Pull that up, bend it in half, and that's just going to help link those 3 loops together. And it gives you something to hold on to, which is nice. If you don't have this, you would just use your fingers to grab those 3 loops. And now, every time I'm going to put a doubled band of the brown for the fur, so that has to go on next. So I'm going to grab that, put it on my hook, twist, and put it back on. So that'll give you your 2 loops. And then I'm going to take this caramel color, and the 2 loops have to slide on. And this part's a little tricky because you kind of have to keep the doubled loop in the center of the band, kind of trap it in the middle, because oftentimes these extra loops can get pulled through when you don't want them to. So I'm just going to hold that back, pull this through, and then you have to get the other end back on, so you can see that that is now caught on there, and then you have one through the other. And then I'm going back through from front to back through those 3 loops. Just make sure your hook doesn't go through any of these extra loops. So again, I'm going to add my fur here. So double. Next band, I'm going to slide the fur on. pull through those 3 loops and get the other end back on. So you can see once again this is caught on there. You'll have your 3 main color bands, or maybe you're doing all the same color, and pull through. Back through, doubling. This slides on through the 3 loops, other end back on, one through the other 2. So that's really the pattern that we're going to follow for the whole thing. So that is my 4th, and then back through one more time. Going to double the band, slide this on, and you can see here how that kind of jumped right off on me. So that does occasionally happen. So you just want to get it started again. Pull through, back on, one through the other 2. So I know that this is definitely more advanced, and if you find that you're having a really hard time with it, you can just not put those extra loops on, and I think it'll turn out just fine. So here's what it looks like. You want to spread these around so they're kind of evenly spaced around the circle. And you may notice sometimes if one of the loops gets pulled, it'll go out really far and the other one will get tiny. So when you're all done, you can kind of play around and adjust these and try and keep them even. Now I'm going to put my clip on, and that completes the magic ring. In rows 2 through 6, you're going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I have 5 of each color band for each one of the rows. So I'll do the first couple with you, and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So here's what we've done so far. You should have 5 stitches, and a stitch is this little sideways V that's on the outer edge of the magic ring. So the one on my hook actually counts as the 5th of the stitches. So I'm going under the first stitch, front to back, under both loops. So I have to do my doubled band first, and then I have my main color here. Again, just slide that on through the stitch, get the other end back on, and throw, and then in the next stitch over. It's kind of a little bit of a small magic ring, so if it feels like it's getting tight, just pull it open to open up your stitches. So here's the second one, and as I said, it's definitely very easy to get caught up on loops that you don't want. That's why I decided to do the 2 different colors to show you. So here's the third. And the fourth. And then the 5th one here is where your clip is. And then when you get to the end of the row, you just want to take your clip off and put it on the band that's on your hook. So we're going to just keep repeating that, and as I said, you can see how this really closes up. So what I would recommend is to just spread this apart, open up that circle, so you can get a better view of your stitches. So let me just go ahead and do the next row with you. So I'm going under the next one over here. You can see we already went through this one. Going over. And after you do this for a while, I think you'll get a rhythm going and you'll get the hang of it. You can see that I don't always grab the 2 loops and slide it back. I sort of just let it come off on its own a little bit. So that was 1. If I pull this back and sort of just let it slide through on its own, and you can see how sometimes it wants to jump back up. That's 2. 3. 4, and again where your clip is makes number 5. So you're just going to keep doing that until you've completed your 6th row, and then I will meet you back here in a minute. Again, just keep opening this up so you can see your stitches nicely. When you have your first arm completed, you're just going to put that to the side, and then you're going to do a second arm. So I'm not going to film this just for the sake of time, but I will add the time in the tutorial to go back to if you feel like you need to follow along with the steps once again. Next, we're going to make the rest of the body. So we're going to start with the top of the head, and I have 11 bands. We're doing a magic ring of 5, so it's starting the same way as the arms. So I will be using my twist tie just to help me get this started. I'm tripling the first band, and then I'm going to double a band for the fur, and then I'm pulling through all 3 loops, get the other end back on, one through the other, back through the tripled, and I'll double the band for the fur, going to pull through that, so honestly I think this is the hardest part, really, is just getting this magic ring started and adding that extra fur. Since you're really starting from nothing, and then once you start building out the rows, I think it gets much easier. Unfortunately, you have to start with the hardest part first. So through the tripled band, that was my 4th, and then one more time, let me just remove that twist tie. And add the clip. And then basically just try and even these out around the circle. In row 2, we're doing an increase in every stitch. So I have 2 bands for the increase and then 2 bands for the fur. So I'll go into my first stitch here, doing my doubled band, and then pull through, and then back through that same band we're doing an increase, moving over to the next stitch. Just going to keep repeating this. And then over to the next. So as I said earlier, it is very easy to get hung up on a loop that you don't want. And really, if every now and again a loop pulls through to the inside or something like that, it's really not critical. So we have 2 more stitches here. And then here's my last one. And move the clip. So you're going to just stretch this out a little bit, spread that open. In row 3, we have an increase in every other stitch, so it's a 1-2-1-2 pattern. So we have a single to start. Looks like I have this one loop kind of pulled far out. Let me just fix that quick. And then an increase in the second. So that's one, and back through the same stitch for your second. And then we're just going to continue to repeat that. So I have my single, and then my increase. So hopefully by now you've gotten the hang of adding this extra doubled loop. I know it's really tricky. It can be very frustrating to myself included. But I really just love the look of it. Actually, quite some time ago, I did a Shaun the Sheep in which I did this similar pattern. And I absolutely just love the way he turned out. But I remember when I was filming the tutorial, it was super frustrating. It took me hours upon hours. So let's just hope that this isn't a repeat and that it goes smoothly and relatively quickly. So this is my second to last stitch. It gets the single, and then in the very last one here is my increase. In rows 4 through 7, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you're going to add your extra loop for the fur. So I have a total of 30 bands in each one of these piles. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do those on your own. So you can pause now, and I will see you back here shortly. In row 8, you'll need 26 bands, and we are going to attach the arms on stitches 2 and 3, and then on stitches 10 and 11. So I'm going into my first stitch. It's going to be a regular single crochet with my extra loop. And then I'm going to go through the second stitch, and here's where I'm going to pick up the arm. So what I'm going to do is take this loose band, I'm going to get that on my hook, I can remove this clip, and then I'm going to go around in this counterclockwise direction over to the next stitch. I'm going to take my band, I'm not doing any extra loops on these, I'm going to go through the stitch, through the loose band, through the other stitch, back on my hook, one through the other two. And you can see now that we have this attached. You want the circle to be facing upward here, the way that the arm would naturally be here. You want the hole to be against where the body would be. And I'm moving over to my next stitch on the main body section, and I'm going to go over to the next stitch on the arm. So technically we could go under this one. This is where we just attached it, but I'm actually starting with a circle of 5 here on the arm, but I'm only going to attach it through 4. So I'm going to skip this one that we just attached. I'm going to go under the next one, to go under both loops. So really you're pushing from the outside in this time to go under the arm. And I'm just going to pull through both stitches and one through the other. And then I'm just going to work my way around here. So I'll count the stitches out with you. This is going to be the 4th stitch. And then the 5th. Now here's number 6. Seven. And then here's 8. And 9. And then in the 10th stitch, again, we're going to do the same thing the way we did for the other arm. So I'm going through the stitch, I'm going through the loose band, take off the clip, and go around. Again, this is kind of closed off here. We just kind of open it up here. Go around to the next stitch on the arm. Again, we don't have any extra loops, so just pull through the stitch, the loose band, and the second stitch. I feel like I'm still caught up on something. There we go. And then over to the next stitch on the body. Again, you want this so the opening is facing towards the body. I really feel like this is very hard to see. And I'm going over to the next stitch, going from the outside in. And I'm pulling through. You can see that one of the loops wanted to come through with that. Just pull that right back out. And then it's just a matter of continuing around, and we will be adding the extra loops for the rest of the row. So if you don't get the arms attached through the exact hole, it's still should work out as long as you get it securely attached on, especially with all these extra loops. You're really not going to notice if it's not exactly through the correct opening. Just can't have any loose bands. And then here's my last one. Whoops. And add the clip. In row 9, you're going to need 26 bands again, and we're attaching the arms this time on stitches 1 and 2 and stitches 9 and 10. So we're going under the first stitch of the body, and now you have to find the arm stitches. They're kind of hard to see, but you should have 2 empty stitches sticking up here. We're going to go under the first one. Again, no extra loops. You're going to pull through both stitches, and then you're going under your next stitch of the body, and then the next stitch on the arm. Pull through both stitches and through. So I should note that I did not put any stuffing in the arms. They are rather small, but if you wanted to, you could add stuffing. Obviously, you would have to do it before you close it off there. And then we're going to have 6 stitches in between here. So this is actually stitch number 3. We will be adding the loops to these. And then here's 4. And 5. 6. 7. Sorry if this arm's in the way. And then here's stitch 8. And now the same thing with stitches 9 and 10. We're going to do like we did on the opposite side. So you're going through the body, and now you have to find the opening here on the arm. I know it's kind of small, but this one right here is an empty stitch. So that's number 9. And then on to the next one here. You should have 1 empty stitch left on the arm. Again, I know it's really hard to see. And if you're really unsure, just try your best. I think it'll work out fine. And then you should have the remaining stitches with your extra loop. So honestly, to me, adding the arms is the hardest part. So if you've made it past that, you should be extra proud of yourself. So here's my last 2. And if you want, you can spread this out a little bit. I always like to give it a little bit of a tug and stretch it out after every row. The next thing I'm going to do is to add the eyes and the nose before this section gets too long. So for the beads, I'm using just some plastic round beads, and these are about 8 millimeters. And then for my nose, I have a oval shaped glass bead, and the length of this is about 12 millimeters. So you definitely want to have ones that are a little bit larger so they're more visible through this extra fur that we added. So I have 3 additional bands that are going to be anchor bands. And so you want to look at your piece and see which side you want to be the front and the back. So if you just look, they're probably pretty darn similar, but I think I want this to be my front. And then I'm just going to see where I want the eyes to be placed. So I actually spent quite a bit of time messing around with the eyes on the first one that I made. So I think maybe somewhere right around here. So I'm going to come up through and grab one side, and then I'm going to come down. I'll poke up through the other side, grab the other end of the loop, and pull it through to the back. So at that point, I should have 2 loops here on my hook, and I'm going to just pull one through the other. Hopefully you can get a good view here. And then I'm going to go a little bit away from that, go under an additional loop on the inside, and I'm going to pull one through the other, and I'm going to make a nice and tight slip knot. I'm actually not going to pull it super tight, just because I want to see how the placement ends up. So that's my one eye, and then I'm going to try and come evenly, and I'll come up through over here, do the same thing. So I'm going to grab this and pull to the back, come right over to the next, and pull that through. So it does look like they're a little bit spaced far apart, but I can always adjust them. I have a little bit of wiggle room, so I think that'll be alright. And then on the inside again, one through the other, go a little bit away from there, go under another loop, and I'm going to make my slip knot. Whoops, I actually just lost them. There we go. I'm going to pull this nice and tight, and let me just do that to the other one, get that nice and tight. You can see I'm snagging some of these bands and making them uneven. So I'm just going to adjust these just a little bit inward. And now for the nose, just want to see where I think that looks good. So I think right there looks pretty good. Again, just go from the inside out, get the one side through, come up right next to it, get the other side through, and then one through the other, go under another loop, and then make my slip knot. And if you wanted to, for any kind of extra security, you could take your loops that are inside and knot them together. I'm actually not going to bother to do that. And then you can play around with your fur loops and your eyes until you get them nice and even. In rows 10 through 14, you're going to need 30 bands per row, and it's going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch with your extra fur loops. So again, I'm going to let you go ahead and do these on your own. So you can pause, and I will see you soon. Your Chewbacca should be coming along nicely. Should have a main portion of him done. So the next thing we're going to do is to stuff him before we start to form the legs. So it's up to you how much stuffing you want to put in him. I would recommend enough so it fills him out, but not too much. You don't want to see any of the stuffing come through the stitches. So I always like to do it in smaller sections at a time, and then that way it's easier to take some out if you need to. And you can always keep opening this up here. I pretty much do that after I form every row. I don't know if I said that already or not, but I like to sort of open it up because it does tend to close in. In row 15 we're going to form the legs, and so I'm going to split it into two. So this is actually row 15A, and you're going to need a total of 15 bands. And I am going to be using an extra clip. So here's where we're at so far. What I'm going to do before I start anything else is I'm going to count over to the 9th stitch. So from where my clip is, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's going to be this stitch right here. Going to just add a clip to that. So that should be about the midway point here. And I'm going to start by doing one single crochet into the first stitch around. Going to add my extra loop. And when I get it back on here, we're used to doing the end one through the other two, but for this one I'm going to do the end two through one. I'm going to take my next band and I'm going to just pull it through and back on. So that's a chain of one. And now where I've placed this clip, what I'm going to do is stretch across, go under that, and we're just going to work our way around back to our initial start here. So technically we're going to have 9 stitches because we added one for where this chain was, and we really only want 8. So when I get back to the start, I'm actually going to skip a stitch. Since we're dealing with an uneven stitch count, we had a total stitch count of 15, which is going to leave 8 and 7 plus your chain. So you can see here I actually have 3 stitches left if you count where my clip is, and I have enough bands for 2. So I'm going to go around, but I'm actually not going to go under the very last one where my clip is. I'm going to skip that one. And you really won't notice it at all because we have all these extra bands. It's not going to leave a gap or anything. So even though I technically didn't go under this stitch, I'm going to remove my clip and put it to the band on my hook. So that is the leg hole here for my first leg. In row 15B, we're going to form the second leg. So I have 15 bands, and it's going to be that same pattern. So here's what we've done so far. Now, where we put that clip, where we went straight across, it's going to be on the front. I'm going to actually be going to the next stitch over to the right from there, if your Chewbacca's facing front. And I'm going to actually go in from the outside. So it's going to be a little bit backwards just to start here. So I'm going to put the loop on my hook first. and then I'm going to the stitch right next to where the clip is. Make sure you're going to the next one over. And this where it's a little different, I'm pushing in from the outside, and then I'm going to pull through and go through these 2 loops and back on. I'm going to leave those 2 on my hook. I'm going to take my next band, I'm going to make my chain. But before I do that, I'm going to actually loop just a little bit of this other chain, just the one side. I'm going to just go through a couple of those loops just so I don't have a gap in between my legs. And I'm going to pull through everything and back on. Leave both on your hook. And then I'm coming over here. You can see where this is connected. From our first leg, we're going to go to that next stitch over. And then I'm just going to continue around here, doing 1 in each with our extra loop. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Here you're going to have 4 loops on your hook, 1 through the other 3. And you can see now, if you look, that it's really not much of a gap here. You won't notice that at all in between the legs. And now our stitch count should work out. Since this was the side that had the lesser stitch count, we shouldn't have to skip any like we did on the other side. And everything should just flow around in the same direction now. It's just that initial part there that was a little bit backwards just to get started. So I have enough for 3 stitches here. And then that should take us right back to the start of this leg. And so I'm going to remove this clip here since we don't need that anymore. That was just a marking spot for the center point, and put it on the band around my hook. So now I should have 2 leg holes, and they should each have 8 stitches. So again, like always, you can just take your time and sort of open these up a little bit so they're more visible. In row 16, I'm going to split that into 2 sections. So in row 16A, we're going to do the first leg, and you'll need 16 bands. So you should have 8 stitches, and I'm starting here on the one side where my clip is. And you'll go under your first stitch. And we are adding the extra loops to each one. So that's the first one. And now your second one is going to be in the middle here, where we did that chain 1. And now you're just going to work your way around the rest here. We're on the front side here of the stitches. And again, as always, if you feel like you can't get a good view, just spread those stitches apart so you can really see what you're doing. So I have 2 stitches left here. And then my last one where my clip is. clip. And again, I'm just going to spread this apart. Open that up a little bit. In row 16B, we're going to just do a row on the second leg. So I have 16 bands. And again, we're just going to be going around in that counterclockwise direction. So here's where my clip is. I'm going to the next stitch over. Should be on the front side of the body. Second stitch should be in the middle here, where we did our chain 1. And then to the back of the body here, this is stitch 3. And then 4. Oops. And that was 5. Six, 7, and then again back to your clip, makes 8. So just move that clip, and then again just kind of spread this apart so you get a better view. In rows 17 through 20, you're going to need 32 bands for each row. And really it's going to be split into 2 sections because you have 2 legs now. So each leg's going to get 8 plus the extra band for the fur. So that's where you get the 32 for each row. And I'm going to go ahead and let you do these on your own. So you can pause your video here and finish out that part of the legs, and I will see you back here shortly. Next I'm going to stuff my legs. So it's up to you whether you want to stuff yours or not. It's kind of a small opening, but it's bigger than what the arms were. So I'm just going to add a little bit. And it's going to be a little bit hard to get in there. You can either just use your finger, or if you're having a hard time, you can use a pen or a pencil to just kind of get it all the way up in there. So I'm just going to do this for both of my legs. The last thing we need to do is just to close off the bottom of the legs. And so I have about 6 bands here. So I'm just going to get the loose band on my hook, and I'm just going to go through the 1 loop. Instead of both, I'm just going to push through 1, pull back, go through the next one. That's a decrease, but I'm actually going to pull back and go through the next one too. So I actually have 4 loops on my hook. And then I'm going to pull through the first 3. Do that single crochet. Let me just take this clip out. And you can see that almost totally closes it off. So I'll just go through the 1 loop of the next couple, maybe I'll skip this next one and come back over here and take another band, and I think I'm just going to pull through everything and make a nice and tight slip knot. So I actually only used 2 bands for that leg. And then what I'm going to do is just hide this loop inside. So I'm going to try and be careful and not get too much stuffing to come out. I'm just going to reach up through from higher up on the leg, push down, and then I'm just going to grab this and pull it up inside. Just try and flatten that out. So there's the bottom of the one leg. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'll just get on my band, and then just through the one loop, I'll go through the next 3 stitches. So you don't have to do exactly the same as me. It's not really an exact science. It's just a matter of closing it all off. So there's one. Again, let me just take off the clip. And I'll go through, maybe I'll skip one, go through the next one, and then over here, just fix that band, take another one, pull through everything, make that nice and tight slip knot, and then just grab it and pull it up inside. Just going to try not to get this stuffing to come out there. And that looks pretty closed off. And now your little Chewbacca is complete. I also made the bag here for Chewie that he wears. So I'm going to show this in a different tutorial. I actually call it his little Wookiee purse. And it's actually a real functioning bag, the one that I made. You can open it up. I don't know what you would fit inside. It's awfully tiny, but it's really cute. And so he just wears that across his body, and I think it's a nice little accent. And as I said, I will be adding a separate tutorial for this. I hope that everyone loves their new little Chewbaccas. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that way you can stay up to date on all of my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and on Instagram, so please post your pictures and comments there too. I love to hear from everybody and see what you're doing, and you can feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!